Today's episode is going to be really dope. So what we're going to do is talk about right to repair. If you guys don't know what that is, if you own anything with a EULA, man, you guys got to read those EULAs and see what's really going on with the products that you buy, because you might not really own the products that you have, and that's not a good thing. Now today we have a special guest, Dead Battery. She is a YouTuber that does repairs as well, and it's going to be interesting to ask her about her thoughts on right to repair. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on to Leland and Moby.
Okay, so I'm fired up today, and it is actually inspired RGX by links you shared to me to YouTube channel by Louis Rossmann, who talks about right to repair. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not someone who has much experience with this. I bought the extended warranty on my laptop, so when it's had issues, I've just brought it back. Very annoyed that it takes 6 to 8 weeks to fix, and it feels like I have to bark up the tree of every single service representative at that store to get some moving on it. But I watched some of your video clips, and in particular, one really ticked me off, which is Louis Rossmann versus TechNet anti-right to repair lobbyist Christina Fisher. And here's this woman working for this company right before government representatives saying that it's consumer choice that to get your hardware, which honestly is very expensive. Like, we spend a lot of money on this stuff. And she's basically saying that, yes, to go to the original equipment manufacturer, the OEM, or their authorized repairers, and only really going through those people. She mentioned something about third parties, but it didn't really make sense. It sounded more like they were just secondary authorized repairers. But that's somehow consumer choice. I was like, hold on a second there. I have bought your expensive product. There is a problem with your product, which may or may not be my fault. But you're telling me, and I do live in a small town, same as Leland, that we can't go to a local shop to get this repaired, that we'll lose warranty, or that shop can't even get the correct parts or like fuses or chips or components to repair our stuff, and that we have to send it to the OEM for fixing. And in some of the cases that I heard about, it's like it can cost as much as 1/3 the cost of the overall hardware just to have the OEM do some repairs on it. And honestly, that really, really made me angry knowing that this is out there. And I just wanted to say, I can't believe this is happening in 2024 in North America, in the Western world, that we are bottlenecked and that someone has the audacity to try to gaslight the consumer that this is somehow choice, that you can go through their proxy or the OEM. So I had another monologue in mind, I'll be honest. You knew that, RGX, but I switched it after watching this stuff because it just frankly pissed me off. So I know you've got some thoughts on that, but I'm also interested in Leland and Dead Battery, your thoughts about right to repair as well.
If you buy something, that is yours. I mean, you should have the right to do whatever you want to do with it. Now, as like a game person, obviously to repair your own game console, with like Ataris and like Segas and stuff like that, retro gaming wise, like I have back here, now that's not going to really come into play. But like with Dead Battery, where she actually repairs like PS5s and the modern Xboxes and things like that, and even like me, I'll repair like Blu-ray players and some TVs and stuff like that. But if you put third-party parts into some of these products that you're trying to repair, and that detects it, because everything's connected to the internet now. And if you read your EULAs on these products, they can actually turn off services to that product. And like a gaming console, like if you mod it with a mod chip or something, or soft mod, or however you want to mod it, they detect that you're off of that platform. It's or pretty soon it's going to be to the point where they're just going to brick your products all together where you can't even turn them on. And I just think that's bullcrap. Now, just imagine if they did that to like automobiles. Okay, now we're getting into like the whole electric car thing nowadays. So, I mean, that's all computerized. So just think, if like you don't take it to Tesla to get it serviced, what are they going to do? Just brick your car to where you can't do anything? Or you have some kind of third party part in there that they don't try to do something to program it to break down on you. You don't know what's going to happen with this. Definitely read your EULAs, man. I mean, people really need to read that and pay attention to what that's saying. Now, with me, like I say, because I just do like little repairs on stuff like this, it doesn't really come into play. But say, for instance, if I wanted to open a business like Louis Rossmann has, I mean, that really comes into play, especially with like, I don't know if you guys were watching his earlier videos too, because what really got him into it was Apple repairs. And Apple was going after him because he was doing repairs on Macintoshes. And that started the whole thing. And he's just been going at every person that's anti-right to repair. It's like, all power to him.
Yeah. I mean, to some extent, some of that, like you mentioned, the automotive industry, like that does exist in the automotive industry, right? If in some cases, especially depending on the brand of vehicle. I mean, BMW dealerships want you to bring their BMW to them; they don't want you to go anywhere else, and that kind of stuff. I know in our province in Canada, through insurance, the singular insurance company that you can use in British Columbia, ICBC. When you get repairs, you have to go to an ICBC authorized repair shop to do so. If you want to, put a claim through with them. And now, obviously, that's going to be quality control. In Apple's case, it's going to be like IP control and preventing IP infringement on their products and that kind of stuff, right? I think somewhere there has to be a compromise on both sides. Like there has to be a middle ground, because one way or the other on either end of the measuring tape, like it doesn't work for everybody. Like there has to be some common ground somewhere that can appease like both parties on either side of it. Like there just has to be, because I agree. Like it also comes down to just a general lack of knowledge for the general public, which again, same with automotive industry. If you don't know how to repair your vehicle, you're SOL, and you're going to go, you can shop around and try to find, honest repair shops and mechanics and get recommended from people that maybe have dealt with people that are reputable in those types of ways. But like you're kind of at their mercy no matter what. And obviously that's a ton of energy. That's how the world works. You're always at someone else's mercy who has more knowledge than you, right? But I don't think there should be anything that prevents you from empowering yourself with more knowledge in any aspect, really, in any case.
So the right to repair actually didn't really come up into play for like this part of my stuff. To me, it ran a lot deeper. Like I grew up in country, kind of. I grew up near a lot of Amish, Mennonite, so farming. And if a lot of people don't know, it's not just the automotive business that's right to repair. It's a lot of the farming equipment as well. That's where a lot of the issue came into play, where people were out using equipment and it would break and they can't fix it because there's something else going on with it. So they have to wait for the company. And then meeting my husband and learning some more about cars, because he's a huge car person, I saw it start falling into play with that. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then me picking up the game stuff, it all like goes together. So every time I read about right to repair, it ends up being like the whole chunk of everything, because there's so much more. Sometimes you get blinded by the one thing you're working on and don't realize that it encompasses so much more. Like if I can't fix something because I can't get a part, okay. But like if a farmer out in a field can't fix his tractor, he could be down like a whole crop or a whole harvest. And that's a lot of money that, can affect people.
That's a fantastic example of that. And I think the downtime of, these having to go through the OEM or one of their proxies, I think that's a great point that you make, because sure, it was annoying for me as a gamer to lose my gaming laptop next week, but I had an alternative. I still have my company laptop. I could throw YouTube on that. That was no problem. But you're right. I mean, you look at someone like who might be a graphic designer, honestly, like freelance graphic designer, programmer, something like that. If they have to wait 6 weeks, and you've got someone like Louis Rossmann who's saying, if you give me this fuse, I'll fix it for 40% of the price overnight. I mean, how can you say that it benefits the consumer to send them to the OEM or proxy in that situation? It's just it's ridiculous. And what's scary, because I don't know the why answer to this, is that Louis Rossmann in his videos mentions that a number of US states have tried to enact these right to repair legislations, and none of them have passed so far. So hopefully in the future, but I start to think, why are none of them passing? Like, I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but what is going on in the background? What kind of lobbyist like that, Christina, right? Exactly. And, but just don't tell me it's for consumer rights, because that's just ridiculous gaslighting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. One of the few times I've ever agreed with you, Moby.
I know, this is rare. I'll buy a lottery ticket. Thanks, Leland.
There's no money if things work properly for anybody. Like, if just think of how many industries rely on something being wrong with something to generate the revenue that industry generates. Like, it's just, when you think about it, you kind of start thinking bigger and bigger and bigger scopes. Like, yeah, it is. We're boiling down to like a few personal individual cases, but you can really, like, just like exactly what you mentioned with the farmers, like, you can really blow it up and it all matters, right? It all matters at all, like, every level. The conversation matters.
I used to work at Hewlett Packard back in the day, so I used to work for this huge company, Fortune 500, and so I can tell you, with the products that they made, that was proprietary. So I remember I was kind of part of the team that was doing things with, like, the HP touchpad when it came out. I don't know if you guys knew that, what that kind of was. So right when the iPad was coming out, HP was trying to launch a competitive product running WebOS, a different, instead of like Android or anything like that, it was WebOS, a different kind of OS on it. So a lot of the technology in it was proprietary. So I can kind of see where, like, if you have a product that is, something special to you and your company that is totally different than the competitor that you're trying to compete against, and then if your technology gets out to the masses, then people can just start counterfeiting that. Like, China gets a hold of this technology and they're just going to blow it up, and it'll be out there for $20 on AliExpress. That's just kind of how it is. So I can see why companies want to do this, but at the same time, it screws the little guys over, the actual consumers over, as well. And I don't know. It's just kind of one of those tit for tats. I mean, what do you do in that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, that's the cost of doing business, right? When the fear of your great idea becoming someone else's great idea is the backbone of every inventor or critical thinker, right? Or creative. Like, that's just the cost of doing business, unfortunately, and that's why the IP laws and copyright laws, like, that's why those exist, obviously. And I mean, that's another conversation, whether or not they do what they're supposed to do as well, right? That's a whole other topic, maybe for another show. But yeah, you're totally right. I think that's you summed up better than what I try to speak to about the common ground thing, right at the beginning.
Yeah, so I've got 2 quick points here to add on. Number one, RGX for you, and this is to what you said about 5 minutes ago. Right now, 2024, you're working on a lot of older machines where you can get the parts when you have to do these minor repairs. I think my concern, maybe this is unfounded, is that, if you've still got your channel running, you're doing things in 20 years, that you won't be able to, repair the Switch 2s or the PlayStation 6s of the world, because everything's going to become so proprietary, sealed away, not able to buy those spare parts, that you would start to have trouble with that. My second point would be in regards to a compromise, as Leland's talking about. One potential compromise, I don't even know if this counts as a compromise, but I would accept that if I had my local mom and pop store repair my product, that maybe it's no longer covered under the 1-year warranty. Like, I could accept that for, the approximate 2/3 savings I may get on them doing the repair. I don't necessarily feel like the original equipment manufacturer needs to cover on a warranty basis something that an unrelated third party does. But that's really the closest to a compromise I can get, because I do think someone should have the right to have a local shop or person repair their product for how they choose. I mean, if it works, it works. I mean, Leland and I yesterday, we were playing on my 27-year-old Nintendo 64 that has worked, is never needed to go to a repair shop, and probably has, my goodness, upward of 5,000 hours on it. You know, if these OEMs don't want things to go to right to repair, you know, call me too basic or simplistic. Just make solid state electronics that don't require repairs that often. Right? Like, I don't know. that old cliche RGX, they don't build them like they used to. Unfortunately, that's often true. So,
yep, they don't, dude. They don't make anything like they used to. And, you know, it's just one of those things that's why it's such a struggle to get this right to repair thing going. Because, okay, say for instance, I just repaired an air conditioner for my wife, okay, because she just had surgery as well. And so it's hot upstairs, and our air conditioner wasn't working. So being able to open it up, diagnose what it was just a capacitor, the starting capacitor to the compressor. It was blown out, so just put a new one in, and boom, worked. But something as simple as that, it was a $16 fix. I got the part from Amazon, okay? But let's say in the future, the same air conditioner manufacturer says, okay, well, we're only making this capacitor, and this capacitor is only this rating, and that's it. And it has these special leads off of it that only, you know, our wire harness will use. And you can't get it anywhere else. I've ran into this problem with TVs where there's certain parts that I can't get for them because I'm not a TV repair person per se. So I am not able to obtain those parts. And that kind of sucks because, like, my local neighbor here is like, hey, man, can you fix my flat screen? I open it up and I'm like, well, dude, I know what's wrong with it, but I just can't get the damn part for it. You know? So he has to take it to the local, you know, other guy over here that's got a repair shop, and he charges him like $400 to get his $700 TV fixed. So it just sucks, man. You know, it really does.
I mean, age comes into play too. I'm like, you were talking about your laptop. Well, you said it was 2021, right?
Yeah, 2021. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the laptops I found in the trash was a 2015, and it worked perfectly, except, you know, you look at the 2016, 2017, even your 2021, like once 2023 rolls around, that laptop's like old. Like, I don't know how many laptops I find by the trash that I can repair, and I'll just donate them for people who need them. But like, they're already old, and like half the crap doesn't work on it anymore. Like, it has to go by age too. Like, all these systems are coming out. That's great. Well, look at the switches. Didn't we have that big issue? I don't know how many switches I've put new batteries in for. And the first question I ask him is, did you use the original power cord? I just helped a kid the other day. I had him do it himself. I said, did you use the original power cord? He said, no. And I said, okay, it's probably the battery. Did a battery swap. He's using the original cord. No problems whatsoever anymore.
So, Dear Battery, I want to make a point here, because you've inspired something that I think may reflect a lot of consumers. So, in the last case where I needed my laptop repaired, which it ended up actually needing a new solid state hard drive, nothing that's my fault, but it was in with the authorized repair representative for 6 weeks. I heard nothing back. I was told 2 weeks I would hear something back. Heard nothing back. I went to the store, got some time off work in the morning, and the store, unfortunately, is about a 45-minute drive from where I am, and lined up there, 8 a.m., doors open. I go straight to the service department. They go, oh, no, we can't help you. It's with corporate. And I'm like, okay, well, can you give me anything? Like, you guys told me it was going to be 2 weeks at 6 weeks. Oh, no, they'll get to you when it's time. And I got so ticked off, I emailed them their corporate email address. And I said, if I do not have a response about what's happening with the repair of my laptop in the next 48 hours, I'm going to go to this, and I named them local newspapers and explain what you're doing and not getting back to me. Now, my point is, most consumers are neither as assertive as I would be, and they don't have time. So you mentioned how many laptops you find that just with a minor repair from a few years ago could still work. And I mean, look, there's a lot of consumers that are not hardcore gamers where they just want to do word processing, some YouTube, where 2015 laptop would be just fine to them. My fear is that with this whole right to repair thing, that those type of consumers, a little quieter, maybe a little more introverted, are just tossing perfectly good repairable hardware into the trash, which you're finding, just because it's so hard to jump through all the rings to get it repaired properly.
Or we need the new best thing, like how many, calling out none of my nieces or nephews, like how many are just buying the newest phone when it comes out? Like my phone is new now because I had an old phone, and I don't care that I need the newest and brightest thing, but unfortunately with the younger generation, and there's nothing wrong with it because I was that way too, was you need the newest, brightest thing because that's what's going to get you through everything. So that's also come into play too. Like what's the point of spending money on repairing this laptop? I'm just going to go buy another $1,500 laptop. I have the money for it.
Well, as technology gets better and better, I mean, it's back to not building it like they used to. As the levels of technology increases in these little handheld devices or our consoles or our computers, the built-in obsolescence doesn't need to be purposeful anymore, like some companies do, right? They'll purposely install something that will be obsolete in 3 years, so you need to replace it. But just as technology keeps advancing, like that's just going to happen. That just happens more and more naturally and faster too, right? So you're right. You don't need it. You don't strictly need the latest and greatest. I mean, it's like with PC graphics cards. Like you don't need a 4090, which is going to be the size of your bloody tower of your PC. Anyways, you're going to double the size of a fucking computer. You have to fit the bloody graphics card inside of the damn thing. I mean, you could put it in the back of a wagon to carry the damn thing home, for Pete's sakes. Like you don't necessarily need it. But I mean, I guess when it comes to gaming, as these game developers, they begin to develop for machines that are that powerful, for the most powerful machine. So yeah, it is forcing an obsolescence on perfectly good hardware. Absolutely.
I just don't like the way that things are made anymore. Like I'm old school, I'm Gen X, I have a Pong console here that was born the same year I was. It was literally from 1975, and I can still put it to my TV, turn it on, and it still works just like it should, and you buy like a PS5 or a Switch, and a month or two later something stupid happens to it, or a new TV, and it's like shit just don't last like it used to, and that just drives me nuts. And that brings us back to the right to repair thing. So back in the day, I used to be able to go to Radio Shack down the street and pick up whatever the hell I wanted to get, for just a few pennies basically, and fix what, was wrong with my TV. But nowadays it's like, it turns into this big process. I remember the last time I had one of my flat screens go out. This is back when Sears was still in business, and probably why they're not in business anymore. But I had bought a cheapo, like 47-inch flat screen from them. Within a year, it got this line down the center of it. And they sent out a repairman, He takes one look at it, and he's like, well, here's a voucher to go get a new TV. I went and got a new TV, and they let me get a 50. I think it's a 55-inch TV or 56-inch TV, and I was like, wow, okay, that's cool. But nobody wants to sit there and try to repair anything, and I'm sure basically all it was there was one of the LEDs, one of the lights was not working correctly, or something, or I don't know. It just depends on what it could have been, but it could probably just a simple fix that could have been, a $100 fix for him. But here you go. Here's a new TV. There's just not that same love of trying to repair things anymore, I guess. I don't know. And that's why I think these big companies are like, oh, well, people don't want to do this themselves no more. So guess what? We can take over, I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like so this probably was not the public school experience. My parents had me in private school for most of my, grade school life, but we had a computer lab there in the 90s, and the kids were taught to go into BASIC and to fix rudimentary problems. And it wasn't like a, necessarily like a thing that only the geeky kids did. It was like all the kids were taught to do basic, DOS work and basic programming, and also visual basic. And we've lost that nowadays. I know because I've got a half brother who's 16 years old that he's not taught anything like that in school anymore. And it's just like lack of common sense. Like, should you not both be able to learn how to do basic repairs? Like, is this not home economics to a degree, even though it's digital technology? And, if not, like, why are companies trying to hide this from us? I mean, I think we all know why. And, government's not really protecting us on that. It just doesn't feel right. Yeah. I don't know how else to put it.
Dude, it's weird. So I work at a school. I work at a high school. And I work at a high school that no longer has a auto shop class, a metal shop class, a wood shop class. None of that. It's just weird. It's like, what are these kids vocational?
Yeah,
I love building stuff.
Right?
Totally. Totally. And it's practical. It'll help you the rest of your life. I mean, that goes into a whole other conversation about the school system. But the fact is, there at least used to be elements of this when we were going through school. And I know, Leland and I were slightly younger, we're millennials, but we still were taught this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, but do they teach typing anymore? Because I know that was the big thing when I was in school. I remember carrying the little floppy disk, and they were like, "Don't drop it because it's going to erase itself." So you would carefully carry it. And I remember typing, and you had to type all perfectly, and then after you were done, you got to play Oregon Trail, and I was bad because I would wait till the teacher passed, and then I would finger type everything so I could play Oregon Trail. But I don't think that. They focus on other things. Like you said, there's a whole thing we get into the schools, and they refocus on how they want to go about. And I do like the schools here. They have a couple STEM programs, and I help with Okie STEM. And they're group of kids that are homeschooled sometimes that come in and learn all this stuff. So it's nice to see it still happening on the outskirts, but this kind of stuff should still be happening, like woodshop and automotive. That stuff's great. You find people who thought that this wasn't something they're interested in, enjoying it and pursuing a career later on. And now I think we're just missing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I used to, when I was a kid in the family computer, because we just had a family computer growing up, when that had issues that I couldn't fix myself, I had learned how to reload on Windows, Windows 98 or whatever.
That's wild. That's awesome.
Kids nowadays don't know that, though. Kids literally don't know that now. If something goes wrong with their operating system, these Gen Zers and whatnot, they've got to bring stuff to the repair shop, and it's just it's inefficient.
It's nothing against them. It's just convenient. Sometimes it's easier than dealing with all of the bull crap. Is just to do that. There's nothing wrong with Gen Zers wanting to go and bring it in. But yeah, nobody's taught that. But sometimes nobody wants to because they're like, what's the point?
Well, what there is wrong, and this is my point, is that when those Gen Zers bring in the computer for a repair, what costs $300, they're charged $1,200, and then they got to spend 6 weeks waiting for it to come back. Yeah. That's my point. So that's
all
my
about
point.
The money.
All about the Benjamins.
Always been about the money, man. Now we've come to the part of the show where we'd like you, the viewers, to participate. Send a selfie in or a short video clip of your attempted high score, and we'll feature your attempt on the show and add you to the Retro Gamer Rewind leaderboard. Join us, our guest, and the rest of our viewers as we compete to get the #1 spot on the leaderboard. In this high score challenge, we will be playing River Raid on the Atari 2600. This game was released in 1982 by the newly formed company Activision and developed by former Atari programmer Carol Shaw, an amazing female video game programmer in a male-dominated industry at the time that really deserves her own documentary on this channel. This is, viewer, the 710 Gamers attempt at the high score. And it looks like he did end up beating me, getting a total of 18,760 points, taking the number one spot on the list. Don't forget to send in your attempts to see if you can get the number one spot on the list as well. If you're into doing electronic repairs, our next guest is going to be awesome. Her name is Dead Battery, and she's a YouTuber that does everything from like PlayStation 5 all the way to Game Boys. And some TV stuff, some audio equipment, some other stuff like that. So let's go ahead and meet Dead Battery. Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, very, very good. So I've been watching your channel for quite a while here, and I think the first time we met up was like, I think it was like your first live broadcast. It was like on really late at night here, and I was like, wow, check her out. I think you were doing Game Boy videos.
I didn't know what to do for like my end of year, and I see a lot of people were doing like groups of stuff, and I had a whole container of Game Boys, Game Boy Lights, and Game Boy Pockets, and I was like, might as well just see how many I can fix.
And what was kind of cool is because at the time I was trying to get my Game Boy fixed. So I have that DMG Game Boy that I ended up doing the IPS mod and all that stuff in. So I was actually searching for that, and that's how I found your video. And I'm like, oh, check. I'm like,
oh, that's awesome.
Doing some stuff. I'm like, I'm going to watch this. So, and then we met up and started talking and chit-chatting, and definitely a really cool person here on YouTube. You guys need to check out. So now, basically, I've always kind of wondered, I've never really asked you in person here, but how did you get into electronic repairs? Because I came from like HP, and I kind of learned before that in high school, we had soldering classes and things like that. How did you actually get into the repair business or get into repairing?
It's kind of an oddity. This was not something I ever thought I was going to do, let alone have a whole like office set up. And it kind of just came about because living in Japan. So right now I live on Okinawa, which is one of the largest islands in the chain of Ryukyu Islands. And Japan's got a lot of really awesome game systems, and we started driving around just looking for old stuff, and I kept seeing like broken stuff. And I was like, well, this is kind of a bummer. Like, it sucks that we can't do anything about it, but you know, it was never on the forefront of my brain. And then I found a game system I had been looking for, and it had something wrong with it. So I kind of did some research and felt that this was maybe something I could do. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And it was like, well, I'm going to need to solder this stuff. And my husband was like, well, just buy the stuff. And if you don't like it, we can sell it later on. So I bought the stuff. And then, it, like I said, it just snowballed. It kept going and it kept going and it kept going. So
absolutely.
It was really nothing on my level of anything I did. Like, I play board games and I crochet. Like,
that's
just like Leland, actually. You don't know that.
Now you're well-rounded.
Pretty much
now
true.
You're much more well-rounded than I am.
yeah. Live around a lot of Americans, and I'm not going to say anything wrong about America, but we throw away a lot of stuff. And I kept finding random stuff by the dumpsters, like game systems and laptops and speakers and car stuff. So that kind of came into play too, vacuum cleaners. And I'm like, why are people throwing this stuff away? But I just kind of left it because, once again, it's not something that I thought I was ever going to be able to do or handle.
So, like, Dead Battery, are you saying that people commonly in Okinawa are throwing out electronics which may only have like one single defect to them?
So, yes and no. It's where I work. I work with a lot of Americans, and Okinawas in general are very, if you didn't know, Japan is very trash conscious. Like, they sort their trash. Like, I sort everything. I take all the labels off the bottles. Everything gets sorted. If it's not sorted properly, they don't take it, and you have to open it up and resort it. I don't know how many times I've had to resort somebody else's trash because they just can't be bothered with putting it out properly. And we have bulk trash that comes around, and they collect everything big. So everybody just throws everything out on the curb or by a dumpster. And that's just where it goes because they don't know what else to do with it. They're in a foreign country. They may not speak the language. They don't know where they can go. And that is another issue with being in a foreign country is we just don't know. So unfortunately, a lot of Americans just tend to throw stuff away. There is like a little community of us that will go around to the dumpsters and collect stuff. And I've run into a couple like, oh, hey, if you find this, bring it to me. And if I find this, I'll bring it to you. But the amount of stuff that we send to the recycle center, that because that's where bulk trash goes sometimes too, is like crazy. Like amazes me sometimes, like how much waste.
Cool. So now we do have a clip here of your channel, just kind of showing what you do and everything. So it looks like you sent me something that's a little mashup. Just let's go ahead and show the folks what your channel is all about because it's a really awesome channel. You cater to like the gaming systems and stuff a lot on your channel. I do see that a lot. But there's other things that you fix as well. So I think I've seen you fix like audio equipment and some like keyboards and other things. What other like electronic equipment, or maybe not even like electronic equipment, other things do you repair?
It's basically whatever I find in the trash. So 1 week, it was actually Super Bowl week. And they wanted to do a Super Bowl party on one of the TVs at work. I'm not a huge fan of football, but I was like, oh, come hang out, eat some food. And I like drove by the dumpster and there was like a keyboard. And I was like, why is there a keyboard? Maybe I can fix this and donate it. Cool. And then like a week later, I drove by and there was another keyboard. And I was like, why are people throwing away keyboards? And then a week later, I found another keyboard. And I was like, okay, we're just going to like start collecting this. And then when people move, they throw stuff away. So I've done keyboards, the Roombas. I set the Roombas loose at work and we don't have to vacuum. They just do their own job. And it was like $20 to buy all the parts and like the charger. And they like to name the Roombas. And what else? Oh, phones. I fix friends' phones, or I've just fixed phones I found just for the fun of it. Laptops. I've definitely done the speakers in my husband's car. We upgraded his speakers in his old car. And I like sat in the trunk with my little butane solder, and I've done that. Speakers. Just really... I'm kind of just with anything. Monitors get thrown away all the time with broken screens. And I know that can be expensive, but it's usually cheaper than buying a brand new monitor. Especially some of the expensive ones. Like I have an Alienware and it's like, I don't even know, like what, an 800 maybe up monitor. And the new screen was like $300. So it's just a lot of random stuff. Like I said, vacuum cleaners, just electronics in general. They just end up there. And if it doesn't rain, I'm good. I also like to set them outside for a little bit or wrap them up to make sure there's no cockroaches. We're on an island. There's a lot of cockroaches. I have definitely opened up more than one Xbox outside on purpose and saw cockroaches and was like, maybe not. So I dispose of it properly, but yeah, it's smell. I learned about that. Did you guys know about the smell of the sweet smell?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I do know cockroaches have this unique smell.
Why does this motherboard smell sweet? And I looked it up and I was like, nope, like not playing this game. Like, no. Yeah, so if you get something that smells, like if it has like, you can see where like the acid of their poop or whatever eats away at certain parts, but if it has like a really sweet smell, that means it could have been infested with cockroaches.
Lovely. Lovely. Well, that kind of brings me to the next question. What's your favorite system that you like to work on?
I brought some upstairs with me because I was like trying to think about it. So So man, it's between obviously Nintendo and Sega. So this was the first game system I ever got a hold of. So this is what started it right here. This is called a Pokemon Mini. Now, I'm not a huge Pokemon fan. I'm actually a huge Digimon fan. If you've ever paid attention, this little line here, they're all little Digivices. I actually have 2 more now I found in the junk section that I gotta fix. Huge Digimon fan. But I found this, and this had a burnt screen. And I was like, man, this is a rare game system. How do I fix this? And I found out you can scratch off the burnt part and put a new screen on. So cool. The second thing I found, which is one of my favorite things to work on, is I found this in the junk section. This was yellow enough that I thought it was gold. It was so gross, and it had a burnt screen. So then I looked up like, hey, can I fix the yellowing? And they were like, yeah, just soak it in peroxide. And I actually have a system right now on the floor soaking in peroxide for a video as well. So I really enjoy Game Boys, original Game Boys, and I'm a huge Segas. I love doing capacitor swaps on all these Game Gears. So many capacitors, so much fun. Like, it's great. It doesn't matter. It's capacitors. I love doing capacitor swaps on every game system, but this one's fun just because it's like the whole board. So Sega's got my heart for capacitor swaps, but I like working on Game Boys because I like that you can do the backlight and then the bivert or bivert chip. I don't really know how to pronounce it. It's that little chip you put in there and it switches how the light comes through it. It's awesome. So I would say those are my favorite ones to work on because to me they're simple, they're basic. I know what I need to do with them. And they were kind of the first ones I started on.
Yeah, the DMG Game Boy, I definitely enjoyed working on that. That is a super simple system to work on. Definitely for people that are just getting into it is definitely a system to do.
The screen you can fix too. Like, how many do you find in the junk like I find in the junk section here, like with the screen, and all you do is run a soldered iron across it. And I'm like,
Yep. Yeah, the Game Gears, on the other hand, with the the capacitors, the surface mount capacitors, not my favorite thing to do. I've done a few Amigas like that, and they're a pain to deal with.
I have never touched an Amiga yet, so
I'll
have to keep an eye out for one.
Okay, Amigas go to RGX, Game Gears go to dead battery. There, we're settled. You each have your own system that you love. I mean, I'm a huge Game Gear fan as well. We had one growing up. I mean, it was definitely a system ahead of its time. You know, with that 5-minute battery life based off like 8 AA's or whatever it was. But I did hear they were having major capacitor issues. So it's good to know that at least someone in this world knows how to repair those. I'm curious, Dead Battery, when you do a capacitor swap on a Game Gear, is that a very involved 12-hour task that costs like $100 in capacitors, or what is that like?
No, I don't think it is. I think I've gotten the process down. Usually it takes me like an hour. But it also depends on what kind of capacitors I use. It depends if I get like the ceramic ones or the regular ones. But I'd say like an hour. And honestly, it doesn't cost a lot. Like Console 5 sells capacitor packages for really cheap. And I really like them because they ship out here. Yeah, maybe an hour and maybe like $5. Not even. Maybe under that. I mean, capacitors aren't that expensive.
Yeah, as far as like Console 5 is definitely one of my favorite places to go to get like cap kits and other things.
Yeah.
It's just a great company. And really that kind of brings me back through the loop back to Right to Repair. So now if you go to their website and you look, pretty much you'll see everything for every retro video game system up until probably PS2, Dreamcast, somewhere around there is where you start not seeing parts for those systems. And that kind of brings me to like, what happened? Why aren't we able to get parts for like the PS3 or for an Xbox 360 or other things? I mean, they have a few things here and there, but Is it because it's proprietary? Is it because these things still are something that's being controlled by their EULAs? Now, what's your thoughts on that?
That is definitely an interesting one, and I think that I stuck to a lot of older game systems until recently because of the fact that I wasn't able to buy parts. Because a lot of times I'll look up real quick, like, is this fixable? Is it worth me buying it? And my husband's been a big encouragement for that because he's always like, you might as well, because if you can't fix it, maybe somebody else can. But I think it is just the parts. Like, they're making all these new systems and they're making them, but they're not necessarily having all the extra parts yet. So you can work on the systems that aren't being made anymore or probably are just older. And there are parts out there because people have them, like PSPs. The UMD drive goes out all the time. I constantly go and buy those. It's not that bad. Disk drives to buy, you can buy just like the whole disk drive. You can buy just the little laser. And sometimes the laser is just something that was manufactured by a CD maker. So you just have to track down the right laser. But with these newer systems, it's getting to like these chips and the surface mount stuff. And I am not quite there yet. I've literally got 3 broken PlayStation 5s that are the epitome of my hatred right now. As much as I really want to play some of these new games, I can't find any of the parts to replace right now, or it's just really expensive. So I think that's why. I think because they're making the system still, they're not thinking about making all the extra parts for it yet. They're just focused on building a system. They're not worried about, hey, this person may need an extra part of the motherboard because we didn't build it properly, so it's going to go bad possibly in 2 years. They're not really worried about that, and that's fine. That's the company. Nothing wrong with that, but it does leave a lot of people out there. Like, one of the PlayStation 5s I actually got, I didn't necessarily spend money on it because they didn't want to throw it in the trash. Their capabilities, they were a repair place. Their capabilities were gone. They couldn't do anything with it. And they had seen me come around a couple of times and they were like, hey, do you repair stuff? And I was like, They're like, okay, here, we don't want to throw it in the trash. We'll sell it to you. And I was like, okay. So it's kind of, I mean, what are people going to do when you can't get the parts? I mean, it's that never-ending cycle. It's the snake that's eating its own tail. It's just going around and around.
Yeah, and I think what really kind of has happened, and you kind of see it from repairing the old consoles. So you started with, the old stuff like the Ataris, where, okay, so you had pretty much off-the-shelf parts and 3 custom chips, okay? And then it went on to the next generations where you had some off-the-shelf parts and a lot more custom chips. And then it went into the 90s and into the 2000s and more into surface mount. And now, basically, you have 2 or 3 big old chips on a board with a whole bunch of capacitors and resistors and stuff that control, all the stuff, the ins and outs and the inputs and the highs and lows and all that kind of stuff. But that's it. And it's just those few components. So it's not like you can go out and just repair. Like back in the day, you had boards with a whole bunch of chips and a whole bunch of components on it that you just swap out. Boom, 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 whatever. Yeah. Like in a computer or a car, whatever. We're talking repair of anything. So you got these boards that you would take out and, and there it was. But now, instead of being this huge board, it's just a little chip on the motherboard. And so if that goes out and you have to replace this little tiny component that is hard as hell to replace.
But that's scary. Like, you mess that up or you pull up a trace, like, that's it. $500 down the drain. Like, that's it. Period.
Well, I wonder if that's just the way it is, and that's why people are so anal as far as like these companies with right to repair. Because, okay, you buy the product, it's under warranty, you go to a third party person to get it fixed. They go in, they're experts or whatnot, but they go in, they mess up, they pull up a trace, they say, oh, well, it can't get it fixed. So then you take it back to Apple or whoever, I don't know who it would be. And they're like, well, somebody else had their hands in here. Sorry.
Yep.
You're screwed. So now you just got to buy a new one, I don't know. Like I said, it's just one of those things that kind of sucks that things have changed so much to where you just can't go in and open your computer and fix something. Well, I guess with a computer you can't. Well, it's going to be different here in the future because pretty soon, with the way things are going and the way laws are changing, that's the way it's going to be. You're not going to be able to even go into your computer. Now, like, say if you have a gaming computer, a rig you build yourself, then yeah. But like, say you go to the store and buy an HP or you buy a Dell or something like that, eventually it's going to be to the point where you can't put in a graphics card into that because it's not the kind of graphics card they want or something,
Exactly. Yeah.
It's going to be horrible, and it's got to change. It really does.
Even battery swaps, though. I've done a couple battery swaps on friends with their phones. And, they'll go, we have like one local repair shop, and I usually just show them how to do it. Like, I've got my tools at work, and they'll come to me and I'll be like, okay, this is how you do it yourself. And we'll do the battery swap. And I just charge them for the part, and they usually give me like $10, whatever. Instead of spending $300, they're spending $100. But now their phone says, hey, you're not using the correct battery. So then they have that on their screen all the time. So, I mean, it's already a thing, and it's just going to keep getting worse unless somebody can advocate and speak and just be like, we're not doing this to screw over the companies. We're just doing this so we can keep something for longer, because there's no point throwing away. There's no point keeping all this trash out here. We're already throwing so much stuff away, so much e-waste. Like, can we not just advocate for ourselves? Like, there are people out there that don't have money who can't afford this. If you don't want it, donate it. Give it to somebody else who can use it. Repair it for somebody else who can use it. But that's not, with all these laws now, it's like you said, it's going to get worse. It's going to be where we can't even open up a system to even take a look to see if it is repairable. They were talking about, what is it, the Pixel 9? They were saying that it's going to be like better because you can take the back off and the front off, so you don't worry about doing it. But I think like I fix it and somebody else took it apart and found out that every single screw is like a different size. And like there's hidden screws. So he's like, yeah, they're trying to be awesome, but at the same time, like, they made this the most complicated phone. So what's the point? Like, what was the point of saying, hey, we're making this more user friendly for repairs, yet we're going to make like screws that are going to screw up the whole entire system if you use the wrong one? Like,
right. Yeah. That's ridiculous. It seems to me that part of the right to repair conversation is, we've talked about the voiding warranties and doing, not just repairs, but where is the line between a repair and a modification? And like, it seems like that part of the conversation is never like defined well enough and I think it just only hinders all these actions for right to repair. Right. So like, where for you to better, like, where is that line? Cause I watched one of your videos on you installed an HDMI port into your Game Boy so you could hook it up to your TV, which was really cool. So obviously, like, that's not really a repair. That's like a modification.
Yeah.
So like, where do you personally maybe draw the line?
If I'm doing something that changes it, like an HDMI out, to me, that's considered a mod. But even if I'm putting a new part in, that's not OEM, but if it's still keeping the structure of what it is, I think I consider that still repairing it. Where anything else that's extra, I would consider modding it, which Japan has interesting laws on that as well. You can't actually, last I looked, you can't actually mod something and then sell it. So I've always been really on the line with that. Anything I mod, I own myself. I don't do any mods to give to anybody. If somebody wants to do a mod, I will show you how to do it, but you're doing it yourself. And I'm not saying I'm going to get in trouble, but the laws here are really strict. What is that system that plays all the different systems? So you can plug in all the old cartridges and it plays like them all. It's like retro something. I can't think what it,
or whatever.
Retron. Yeah. So that was a huge controversy here because it could do that and it was considered like a modification. So I think my line for modding and repair is even if I buy new parts for it, as long as it's keeping it the aesthetics of what it is, then I consider that repair. But anything extra is considered a mod. And that's an interesting thing that you said. I guess I never thought about that. Like, why aren't we bringing that up? Like, why is there no distinct line between we just want to fix something? I'm not trying to change your operating system or change your system. I just want it to work for longer than a year.
Yeah, like an OEM should be able to identify a modification. If you take something in for a repair to an OEM because you are told and not giving a choice otherwise, then the OEM should be able to look at it and be like, well, this is some aftermarket modifications, and then we can't honor your warranty. And it should be fairly cut and dry, in my opinion. But again, that's with zero actual actionable repair knowledge of these types of things. So I don't know if it would be that quite so simple to define something like that. For, because it would have to be pretty general, right? To be able to be applied for every OEM that you may authorize or proxy, as Moby was saying.
And they couldn't do that because then they would have to have the parts out there for you to purchase.
Right.
And that's already a big deal with the right to repair, is we can't find OEM parts to put in, so we're having to buy aftermarket parts.
Right. Yeah. So it seems like a pretty easy solution. They just make more parts and sell them and profit off the parts. Like that's what people building PCs. That's the entire industry is PC parts that people construct their own computers. Like that's why can't that similar thing happen? Why can't a similar, industriousness be applied to just older consoles or newer consoles?
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes along the lines with like automobiles too. So say if I went out and bought a brand new Charger or something right now, and I went down the street right after I bought it and I took it to, one of those Fast and Furious shops, and we put some superchargers and intercoolers and a new rear end and new transmissions and all this kind of crap into it. Okay. And then all of a sudden I started having issues with the car and I took it to the dealership and they were like, well, hey, you did all this shit to it, so your warranty's out, man. I'm sorry, Okay, but at least I still have the car. I can still drive it. I can get it repaired by another shop, that kind of thing. But the warranty's gone. Okay, I can live with that, just like with what Moby had said. But if a company is going to say, well, you did all these modifications, you did a third-party repair, it's not an OEM, muffler you put in here or something, so that we're going to avoid the warranty and we're going to brick the car, so you're not going to be able to even drive it,
We're taking your tires, your steering wheel, your everything,
yeah.
The car just shuts down, that's it. Like,
and that's the point that I think companies are trying to get to. But we as consumers need to stop them from doing that. The warranty thing, I'm totally cool with that because, if I open up my Xbox and I, blow the warranty on it because I put a mod in it to play counterfeit games, okay? I'm not going to lie. People do that. So, okay. And then they catch me on Xbox Live and then, they kick me off Xbox Live, okay? And my warranty's shot. I can get with that, but at least I'm still able to use the Xbox. I can still put those counterfeit games in and play them if I want, right? But it's going to get to the point now where they'll just brick the entire console to where you can't even use it anymore. It won't even turn on, And that's where we need to stop it, because once the fine line is when you go to a store and you buy a product with your money, you purchase it, you're not leasing that product. It's not like you're renting it. You bought it. It's yours. It's not that company's product anymore. It might be their their technology and their innovation inside of it, but you own it because you bought it. That's just the way I feel. I don't know.
I agree. If it was leased, you know what? Then I could bring back an old video game anytime and, get 75% of my value back for it then, right? If that's a lease.
There you go.
But, it's not that. And I just, I hope the politicians see through the BS that what the industry lobbyists are saying is not about consumer choice. That's one thing that struck me on the videos that I was watching was that what the lobbyists were saying, like, nobody with half a brain cell, should be buying their arguments. It doesn't make any sense. And I get intellectual property and whatnot, but you've already bought it. And again, I get they should not be on the hook for the warranty as we're discussing right now and have touched on before. But that doesn't mean that I should not have the right to get it repaired in the least expensive, most efficient way, quickest way that I can, or else they're just holding you hostage. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's just a crazy concept, and it's just going to go around and around until all the laws, will end up changing. And then they'll change again, and then all the red tape and the bureaucracy, and that's just the way it'll go. And it's from country to country. It's not just, the United States. It's everywhere. It's Canada, it's Japan, it's Germany, it's the UK, it's everywhere. Everywhere has their different laws and their different interpretations of it. Well, awesome, Dead Battery. It's been an amazing experience having you on and having you as a great interviewee. I just wanted to thank you once again and let all the people out there know where they can find you on the internet here.
So right now I'm just on YouTube for the fun of it. It's just at Dead Battery, DEDBATTERY. And that's it. I'm literally just on YouTube right now just for the fun of it. So...
Sounds great. Well, guys, check her channel out. It's definitely amazing. And go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button to her and us as well. Now, for our next high score challenge, Dead Battery sent in her attempt for the high score of River Raid. Now, what's really cool about her attempt here is that it's being done on an Atari 2800. Now, if you guys don't know what an Atari 2800 is, it was released in 1983 in Japan. It was basically Atari's attempt at releasing the Atari 2800 in Japan because it wasn't released there up until that point. Now, there had been a couple other systems that were Atari compatible before that, but nothing that was actually licensed by Atari that was released in Japan. So, really cool. And what I can notice here is that the colors on this are just a little bit different than the palette on the regular 2600. So that definitely seems to be a little bit different. Now, it might be something with the video encoding, or the recording or something, but for what I'm seeing, the colors are definitely brighter on this. But let's go ahead and take a look at her attempt and see if she actually takes the high score here. So close. 16,430 points. Would put you right behind me in third place on the leaderboard right now. So a really good attempt, really, really close at getting that high score. So I wanted to thank Dead Battery again for putting in her attempt at the high score on River Raid. And like I said, if you guys want to go ahead and submit your attempts, go ahead and submit it to retrogamergenx@yahoo.com. Just a selfie or a short video clip or a link to your video. That would suffice, and then we'll go ahead and post it on the next video. I just wanted to say bye from the Retro Rewind. This is Retro Gamer Gen X.
I've been Leland Steele.
I've been Moby. Thanks for watching. Hopefully we see you in the next one.
Peace out, y'all. And to send you guys off tonight, here's my main man, Soundwave.
Thanks, RGX. I want to give a big thank you to all the viewers, subscribers, and supporters of the show. Now let's send us off. Ravage, Rumble, Laserbeak, Transform, and play HAL Electronica.